is Miracard Studio. For today's project, we are going to literally think outside the box. So we are going to spruce up this small little wooden box, and we are going to use our craft supplies differently from what we would usually use them. So shall we see how we are going to do this? We still going to use the basic things like some painter's tape. We are going to be using some glue, and we are going to need our pewter. I'm going to be working with pewter, so we need a strip, and I will put it in the supply list, you know, to go wrap around the lid. And then we are going to need a piece of pewter to what we are going to put on the outside, and then a smaller piece that we are going to decorate to put on the inside of our little box. Basic tools or essential tools we're going to need is a paper stump. I'm going to use 2 texture wheels, and then the plastic burnisher tool, a Teflon tool, as well as the 4 needle prong tool. Those are the tools that I'm going to use, and with that is going to be our working surfaces for metal embossing, which is a hard surface, a soft surface, and a paper pad. And then we are going to do our design using a embossing folder, but we're not going to use a cricket or a cuttlebuck or a big shot. We're going to use this basically as a texture plate. That's how we're going to use our embossing folder. We are going to use these little things. I honestly don't know what you call it. I work quite often with it every time, well, not every time, but when my husband go to the hardware store and I'm out, I just always ask him to bring me some of the little metal hats with. And we are going to use that as our feet for the box. So yeah, as I said, I have no idea what you call it. I just call it little, I think it's some other cap for something. We're going to need our little box, and the screwdriver is just here because I'm going to remove the hardware from here. It just makes it so much easier, you know, when you work with your box, that you don't have to worry about working around it. And then we will just put it back right at the end. So this I'm going to do off camera later on, but this just give you an idea. So any screwdriver that will work. And then a variety of stamping pads, and the stamping pads we are going to use to add color to our box. The hardware is removed, and just something I want to mention, have a look at your box and just see if it needs a little bit of sanding or not. If you feel it does, you can just give it a quick sand and just wipe it with a dry damp cloth. So the next thing, or the next step, is going to be, I'm going to add some of the stamp pad ink, and I'm working with this one is lavender lace. So these are stamp pads that I've got. I think it was one of the first things that I actually bought when we came to Canada a couple of years ago, and I think some of these colors is not even available anymore. But all you're going to do is you're just going to wrap it or swipe it over your box, and you're going to get a nice color here. And again, you know, it all depends which look you are going for. So you can have it light like this, or you can go really dark. And you know, that's what I always say. That's the nice thing. I think I repeat myself in every video that I do, is because we are individuals, we can all do the same project and it will look different in the end. And don't forget about the bottom. Somebody going to lift up your box? Most probably not, but it doesn't matter. It's just always nice to finish it off on the outside. So, and don't forget to do the tops as well. We're going to work on the inside shortly. Closing this, the reason why I have done the lid as well is sometimes I plan a project and then halfway through I change my mind. So let's say, for instance, I decide I do not want to cover this with pewter anymore, then it's done. Or let's say, for instance, I decide I don't want to use my complete design on here. I just want to add maybe just the butterfly on there. I can do it. Then that means I don't have to come back and redo this. So rather do a little bit extra and have it ready. So I'm going to use the darker purple and I'm just going to give it a quick once over and concentrate sort of more just on the corners. And I'm also going to do it on the top, and I'm going to do exactly the same with the lid as well. Again, this is most probably, well, the plan for now is it is going to be covered completely, but if not, it will be there. Okay. And then lastly, I'm just going to come in with a the second color that I've used was Perfect Plum, and the next one I'm going to use is Close to Cocoa. So again, I'm just going to sort of go in right at the corners and I'm just going to touch it up just to give that added little bit of definition there, so there is just not one dimension or, you know, flat. And I think I'm going to do it at the bottom too. I'm not going to go down to the bottom here. And I'm going to just add this. This one is almost dry. A little bit of the brown to the top. And you can use any colors to accentuate this. You can even use a, you know, a black for that matter as well. And I'm going to do again exactly the same on the lid. I'm going to right on the corners, and again, I know I'm repeating myself, but this is just for in case I decide I don't want to cover the lid. Just give it a hint over on here. I didn't do it there. Okay, so the outside of our box is completed. Coming back to the first color that I used, which was the lavender lace, and I'm just going to use one of these little applicators and load that up. Oh, not much loaded there. And then from there, I'm just going to rub it over here. It doesn't give a much color, but at least it is not the plain one. Actually, let me try. I've grabbed the darker one. I have that in a smaller one, so let me just see. Yeah, it's still not going to go right to the ends, but at least it gives a little bit more color. So I'm just going to go in there and I'll see what I can do with that. That's the only problem if you use ink pads. You sort of can't get in all the little nookies and crannies of everything. So I'll just see if I load this one up. Yeah, this one works a little bit better. I think the lavender, the lighter one, is maybe just a little bit too light for the inside to really give an effect. So I'm just going to go all around and just add some color here. And okay, so I'm going to finish the inside here as well as the inside of the lid, and I will see you afterwards. This is the steps I followed. I started with this small little block and I did the inside, as well as around, all around. Then I changed over and I started using the little applicator, and again I just went around with that, trying to fill in as much. And then I used a paintbrush and I got into all the little crannies and nooks. I don't know what you call that. That's just an expression that we have since growing up. So what is happening here when I do use the paintbrush, and you see it on the box very well. So like for instance over there, no matter, can't really see, on those ones there. So no matter how hard I've tried to get color in there, I just wasn't able to. And I think the reason for that is because that is where the glue was seeping through and the color doesn't take on the glue. So that is something you have to keep in mind as well. Alternatively, what you can do is, if you have some scrapbook paper or any paper, you can use gift wrap paper as well. You can actually take this and cut this and just glue it on the inside, or even this, what we use for a soft mat, the craft mats, you can use that as well. Just cut them to size and glue them in here, or just put them in. There you can see our box is done, and I will spray it later on as well. But I think for now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the it seems there's a piece of wood that chipped out there, so let me just touch that up. There you go. So for now I think what I'm going to do excuse me, is I'm just going to add the feet, and then that is done. So with these little hats, you just have to look that they have holes. So when you add them or when you use them, just make sure that you have them all going towards the same side. So if your hole is to the outside on this one, just make sure everyone is there. So I'm going to put my hole sort of right up until the corner, and then I know it is there. As for placement, I'm just going to put it right on the edge with all of these. I'm gluing this down now because basically we are done working to the bottom of our box. We're not really going to do anything else other than putting the hardware back, where let's say for instance we were going to add some pewter to the bottom, then I definitely would not have done that. But now I know I can put it aside, it's done, and the glue can harden up. The feet is on, and this is how it looks from the side. So that is what I meant when you can see it have that opening. So on all four the corners there's that opening. So I'm going to put this off to the side, and then we're going to start working with our metal embossing for the lid. For embossing, or using the embossing folder, when you open your embossing folder, you will notice there's the one side has an indent in and the other side is raised. So make sure that you are working or placing your pewter on the raised side when you do put it on the embossing folder. Placement, the embossing folder is cut off at a certain point. It doesn't go right through to the edge. So if you are going to put yours right up until the edge, that's perfectly fine. If you would like to do a frame around it, actually I think I am going to use do a frame around mine, so I'm going to use that. No, I'm not going to do that, sorry, I've just changed my mind. And the reason for that is then I'm going to have two open spots there, and that part is going to be embossed right up until the end. So I'm just going to do my placement, and the next step, as usual, when you work with a design or anything like that, you just need to secure it. And I'm going to, so it's going to be difficult to secure it on these ends, so I'm just going to make sure that I have it properly adhere to my embossing folder. So when you fold it over, it will push in, but we're not going to fold it open or close. We're going to use it open as a texture plate. Next up is grabbing your paper stump, and you just, with any other thing, you're just going to start rubbing over it, just so that you can see where your design is. And so think about the possibilities with this. If you do not have a little cuddlebuck or a big shot machine, but yet you look at all these little embossing folders and you're thinking, oh wow, that is so nice. Especially sometimes at garage sales, you get so many nice ones. This is an opportunity for you to use them as texture plates. There were a time when texture plates was readily available, but lately we really struggle to get the texture plates. So yeah, you're just going to go all around and push the pewter up against the design and try and get into all the little areas that is there. Okay, so it looks like most of it has been covered. So the next step is we're going to come in with our little plastic burnishing tool. And now we are going to push this up as close as what we can. Again, almost the same as what we are working with stencils. And we're just going to outline it. I know it's always best to start from one end and work your way around to the other end, but sometimes, I don't know if it happens to you as well, you get sidetracked and you see something here and it's like off to another side. Okay, so when it comes to these small little ones, just go in, because we're going to go over it again later on. But for now, we just want to get a nice feel of where it is. What I would suggest is if you work with these little bubbles, so you have a wide open area here and you have a smaller area, I would always suggest when you do go in to work towards the smaller area, because if it makes a mark or a scratch mark, it won't be as noticeable on the small area as what it would be on the bigger area. So that's just something that you can keep in mind when you do this. So I'm going to go all around this and just push every little one up against the embossing folder. I'm going to go over it again, and this time I'm going to use a fine tip, the Teflon tool tip, and you can see the difference between the tips there. The one is substantially thinner than the other one. It's just, you know, with metal embossing is basically with everything else in life, what you put in, that is what you're going to get out. So if you really pay attention to small little detail things like this, yes, it's maybe time consuming. Well, this is definitely more time consuming than what it is just to run it through an embossing folder or an embossing machine. But if you don't have one, just think of all the possibilities that has opened now. But back to think about, you know, really working neat and tidy and finishing off. As they say, it's all in the details. So spend that extra bit of time with it and get it nice and neat. Next, we're going to remove this. Not bad for not having an embossing machine, just using it as a texture plate. So we can leave it as is. So when you look at this, you can just put it onto your lid. You know, maybe put a frame or a border around it and it can be done. But there's so much more that you can do with this, and that is where the coming outside the box or thinking outside the box is coming in. So let's see what else we're going to do. I think I'm going to do the background. I'm going to pop the butterflies a little bit more, And yeah, let's see. I think the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to concentrate on this area here. So all of that is part of the design, and this is a sort of the open space around the design. So I want to try and keep this area here separate, or give it a separate background than what I'm going to do with the rest of the background. When you have an area like this, what you can do is, to get a quick way to add some texture, is using the 4 needle point from, and this is a Merc art tool, and all you're going to do is you are just going to run it down the pewter, and I want to say straight lines, but I can't draw a straight line, so in lines. So we'll just go with, we're going to make lines with it. And where you come, where it connects over there, I'm just going to go and stop there. And we're going to fall in, because remember, this is still part of that background, where that one is going to fall into the design sort of background. And come in here, and we're going to pick up the lines there. When you do something like this, just try and go straight off your pewter or the metal that you are working with. Don't stop halfway, or when you feel you are coming close to the edge, just continue on right up until you hear that you are off your metal that you are using. And there you can see. So now we have the straight lines over there, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit more detail, and I'm going to go crisscross around. So I'm going to start inside the small one and just add some crisscrosses there, and then I'm going to start here. So you can do this with a different tool as well, but having this 4 needle tool or 4 pin tool is really nice, because you can cover so much more in the same. And again, when you do this, make sure that you go off the metal. And when I work on a round like there, I did move my needle slightly, and so that I can just use 2 of the points or the ends. And now I'm coming in and I'm using all 4 the ends again, or all 4 the needles again. Sometimes I get tongue-tied. There you go. And there we have a nice little, almost like a scratchy check kind of background for that. So as for the inside here, I think I'm going to stay with the roundness of the little balls that is there. There is a lot of round movement here. I'm going to bring in my paper pad, and I'm just going to do round little squiggles like this, and I'm going to fill up the whole background doing this. So while you do this, you will notice that the metal is going to start bunching up, and when you get to a point that you feel, okay, this is bunching too much, you can just move off, go onto your hard surface and just flatten it, come back onto your paper stump and just continue on. So you can work randomly, you can fill it up as you are going, you can turn it around, it doesn't matter, whatever is working best for you if you want to fill up the whole background. As it is, it looks really busy, but it just looks so much better than just the plain one, well, my personal opinion. So, but I still think it needs something like a little border. So I'm going to give it a border, and I think I'm going to use the squares. So it's just a square that I'm going to, it's a wheel that makes little squares. I'm going to use that all around. And like with any texture wheel, you're going to start and you are going to move forwards and backwards and forwards and backwards and apply pressure. And always try and apply pressure evenly, because I know personally for me, I would sometimes tend to go more towards the right side, and then there's a little bit of a gap there. When I used the texture wheel, I was working on the paper pad, and this is, it does give it that border, but it's not overpowering or in your face. It's just a little square with a edge one. You can also always do it the opposite side, work on the back, and then you would have had this little race or emboss design. But because there's so much going on here, I think I would rather have, I prefer having it like this. So the next step is I'm going to work on my little butterflies, and again I'm going to come in with a texture wheel, and I'm just going to add the bodies of the butterflies. You can do this with basically, you can just use a stylus and sort of draw it in. I'm going to, again, I'm moving forwards and backwards, and I start from outside the butterfly and then just go to the opposite side and sort of outside where the head is. I'm doing that, and I think, you know what, I'm going to use this little one, and I'm just going to come in again and go over that. Let me see. Oh, that looks nice, but I think I should have used that one first. Okay. Coming in. Yep. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to sort of round this. Actually, now that I'm thinking of it, actually looks more than like a dragonfly's body now, but that's fine. It's our butterflies. We can make our butterflies look however we want to. So I'm just working on the body of the butterflies. Okay. Yeah, in hindsight, maybe I should not have used the block wheel. I just should have stayed with this one, but that's how we learn. So I'm just going to go over there. Yep, there you go. I actually like it now. Okay, last thing, well, not the last thing, but what we are going to do next is we're just going to add some more height to the butterflies. Before we add height to the butterflies, we just need to flatten around the back here, or flatten the background. And if you want to, just thinking about that, you can actually add some of the feelers in here as well, but I don't think I'm going to go that far. So that's flatten around, background is flattened, and I'm just going to come in with, you can either use your felt, but I think I'm just going to use the matte, and just sort of going to follow along the lines of how a butterfly's wings is. One thing you have to keep in mind with this is when you start from the body and you work outwards, that is how you have to keep on doing it. You can't do the next wing and start from the outside of the wing to the inside. So you need to be consistent with that. So I've started from up against the body and then work out to the outside of the wings. So now I need to continue doing that. There's nothing wrong if you do it from the outside towards the body. That's perfectly fine as well. It is just stay consistent. Yep. So come in and just flatten around. So looking at the butterflies, they really look nice. I don't want to add too much detail because there's already a lot of going on this design, but what I do think I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Teflon tip tool, and I'm just going to add very lightly. I don't apply a lot of pressure, so it will be noticeable, but it won't be like a real emboss. It will be very subtle. So usually when I do this, whether it is on leaves or butterflies or wings for that matter, I would actually use another texture wheel. I really work a lot with texture wheels, but I would use the micro texture wheel because it just gives it an extra sort of dimension. But because there is so much going on already here, I'm just going to use the Teflon tip tool. Okay, that looks a little bit better. So there you can see the difference between the two wings. So that one just have that extra little bit of texture, where this one, it's very faint. So I'm going to do exactly the same to the other two butterflies as well. So there you go. Next is I just need to go and put some wax in here. I want to round off that because it just looks a little bit funny being so straight. Just add a little bit of there you go. While I wait for the wax to warm up, I'm just quickly going to tape down and trace my second butterfly, and that will be the butterfly that we're going to put on the inside of the of the box, and we're going to cut out this butterfly. Let me bring in my paper pad and I'll tape it lightly to my paper pad. Yeah, that might work better. Okay. Oh, I find this pen is sharper. So I'm just going to trace this. I don't think I'm going to do feelers. I might just paint some feelers up. So I've checked, and yes, it is there. So I'm working on the back of a tile that I have, and the first I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and I'm going to trace over the body of my butterfly. And onto the hard surface, and I need a different paper stump for this. Where is my other paper stump? Oh, I'm going to use this one. This one will work, and I'm going to push this excess pewter around it. I'm going to work it into the body of the butterfly. So I'm not working with the point of my, oh, can you actually see there? I'm not working with the point of my paper stump. I'm working more with that, with the flat angle there. And okay, and then the next step is, I should have got all my tools ready before I started. So the next step is I'm just going to use my Teflon tip tool that has a slanted edge. It's not the deer foot, it's different from the deer foot Teflon tip tool. going to use that slanted one, and I'm going to work away the little ridge that is there. And once that is gone, I'm going to come in with my Teflon tip tool or a refiner, and I'm just going to retrace the body again. Okay, so back onto, and for this you can use lino as well. You don't necessarily have to use the back of the tile, but I just find it gives me a very nice surface to do this. So this is going to be a little bit tricky because I don't have a lot here. So let's see if we can push some up here. So again, I'm just retracing the line, and then I move onto my hard surface with my paper stamp, and I push the excess pewter into the wing to raise it or to pop it. So those might be a little bit higher just because we're going to have more pewter to push in. There you go. So again, I'm going to go with my slanted Teflon tip tool, and I'm going to work around the wing to flatten that little ridge. Come in with my refiner or Teflon tip tool and refine. So I'm going to do exactly the same to all 4 of the wings, or the 3 remaining wings. So I'm going to do exactly the same to this butterfly, the wings, as what I did to the ones on the lid. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to work on the felt and see how that go. And again, I'm starting from the inside, and I'm just working my way out to the outside and give a little bit of definition. And then as soon as I'm done with that, I'm going to do the same with this tool. With this one, actually, I think we could have added a little bit more detail, but I just want to keep it fairly plain and simple on the inside. I think what I'm going to do, just for consistency, is I'm going to come in with the same texture wheel, and I'm just going to run it in the body of the butterfly, so that it has the same texture as what the ones on the outside have. Come in with the paper stamp, and like usual, we are just going to flatten around it. I'm going to fold this one up with wax as well. And then once this is all dried, we're going to start, or the wax has set, we're going to do some blackening. I'm not going to do patina on this, I'm just going to do blackening, and then we can put our project together, our out-of-the-box together. While we wait for the wax to set, I did a little test here, and what I'm going to do with the strip to put a wrap around, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that. So I'm going to use again the block or the square texture wheel, and when that is done, I'm going to use the ball and cup tool and fill it up with little balls all around, and just cut this piece here to start, and So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with the same as what we did on the one for the lid. I'm just going to come in and I'm going to slowly start and do the one side. I'll line it up afterwards and do exactly the same on the opposite side. And then once that is completed, I'm going to work on the back. So that was on the front of the pewter. Now I'm going to turn my pewter around and I'm going to work on the back of the pewter with the ball and the cup tool. And I'm going to go down, squiggle, go down, wiggle, come back in, and I'm going to cap it with the cup part. Just go straight down at a 90-degree angle. When that is done, I'm going to complete or just flatten it with my paper stump. So that is how I'm going to complete the rest of this strip to wrap around the lid. Next up is blackening, and you've noticed that I've already added the sequin tape to the back. So when you work with blackening, it's fine, you can do or add your tape beforehand. However, if you work with patina, I would suggest not to do that, to first do the patina and then add the tape afterwards once it has been sealed. So I'm just going over with a little alcohol swab and just to remove the oil residues from one's hands that is on the pewter. And again, this is a definite step that you need to do when you are working with patina. When you're working with blackening, it is a step that you can admit you don't need to do this. So both of these has been filled with wax, all the butterflies, this one as well as this one. Oh, you can't see now. Next, we're just literally going to color this in. Make sure that you get into the nitty and gritty of it. And once it's colored in, we are going to remove the blackening or the water base marker. So this is a water base permanent black marker. And again, I'm using a piece of paper towel and I'm wiping in. I'm going to wipe towards the outside here. And this side I'm also going to wipe towards the outside. So we just want a little bit of definition on the butterfly. I'm not too worried about the outsides because we are going to cut this out. And we're just going to glue it to the inside of the box. So the reason why I didn't add sequin tape to this butterfly is I find that sometimes the wax doesn't want to adhere to the sequin tape when it is on big areas, and for that reason I would use glue with this. So when you remove the bulk of your blackening or the water-based marker, try to always work in the same direction. It just gives you a better sort of fade patina or blackening effect. However, when you look at your design and you feel, oh no, there's a little bit too much black, I would like to lighten it up or get rid of that, that is when you can really go in and pinpoint to specific areas and work in a different direction. Other than that, always try and work in the same direction. If you prefer quite a bit of black, sometimes I do, I would not even come and fiddle afterwards. Again, it's personal preference. So I'm going to just keep on fiddling here until I feel, okay, this is how I would like it to be. For the hardware, the options was to go silver, purple or black. And I've decided for this one, I'm just going to go in with a black Sharpie and I'm going to make it black. It's just because there's quite a bit of blackening on the metal. So I thought I'll do the hardware black too. You can also use alcohol inks for this, but I just find that the Sharpie is working good. It's fairly easy, and yeah, so I'm just going to cover it, and I'm going to do both sides of the hardware in the black. Next we are going to start to assemble. So I'm going to start with the wraparound of the lid, and I'm just going to place it and work my way around. I just want to mark here more or less. Whoops, now just to give me an indication of where the holes is for the hardware. And as I was doing the hardware, I missed one small little screw, so I guess it will come out somewhere along the line. But I'm just quickly going to wrap this around, and when I come back to the side there, I will mark where the marks is for the screws as well. Next is the placement of the top, so I know which is the back, so I know this is going to be the front, and I didn't mark there because once I put my lid on top of the bottom, I will see exactly where to put this. So I know that's the back, this is the front, and now it's just for placement. Where would you like your butterflies to be? Up like that, it can go sideways like that, it can flow downwards. It really doesn't matter, it is up to you on how you would like that to be. So I think I'm going to put mine onto the side or up against the side. And I'm just going to rub this down, give it a good wrap. And join those up. Make sure that you don't have any sharp corners on there if somebody needs to pick it up, so they don't cut themselves. And there is our lid on there. So the next one we're going to do is I'm quickly going to cut out this butterfly. And now where is my scissors? Oh, there's some scissors. So I'm quickly just going to go all around and cut out the butterfly. You can use the dry needle cutter for this as well, but I just find because it's not finicky cutting, it is merely just cutting. Actually, I think I just picked up my other scissors. I think I'm going to use these ones. And again, I'm just going to cut around, and I try and move my pewter rather than what I'm moving my scissors. Just makes for an easier cut. it gets for small little spots like that, I don't try and go in there. Once I'm done, I will come in from the opposite side and I will just cut that. And then from this one, I'm going to come in from this side and just connect it up there. For this one, that side, join up there. And there you go, our little butterfly is cut out. Just going to give the butterfly a little bit of a polish, not much, and add some glue. And with the glue added, I'm just going to place it. So you just have to make sure that when you glue it on the inside, that you have your lid right. So that's the back, this is the front. So as they open it, like this way, this is what they're going to see. So you can do it at an angle or you can do it straight. I think for this one, I just want to go straight. So I'm just going to pop the butterfly in there and add some pressure to stick it down. And this is just going to be a nice surprise. So when you look at your container and they're going to open it, it's like, oh nice, there's another butterfly on the inside. What you can do as well, I'm actually just thinking about that now, you can actually stamp a butterfly at the bottom as well, but that can be a little bit overdoing it too. It will stick down. Our feet looks very nice. So the next thing is just our hardware. I found all the hardware or the small little screw. We start out with our little box and this is how it is looking in the end. So we use the stamp pads to add color to the box. We have used, where's my embossing folder? We've used an embossing folder with our metal embossing tools to do the embossing on the lid. And then we've colored the hardware with a Sharpie. You could have used alcohol inks as well. We went to the hardware store for the little feet. So basically everything has been outside the box here. And again, for the hardware, we could have used purple, we could have used silver, but I just thought the little bit of a black will add something extra to it. And then when we open our box, we have our butterfly there as well. So I hope you've enjoyed spending time with me in the studio today, and always remember, the world of reality has its limits, the world of imagination is boundless.